Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Dan Sissick. I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are going through the book, Whatever Arises, Love That, A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. It's been a great book. We're in chapter 10. We'll get into that in a minute, but I'm going to let my friends Samantha, Catherine, and Angel jump out and introduce themselves, and then we'll get started.
Good morning, Samantha and Indiana.
Oh, good morning, Angel down here in South Carolina. I'm on my tablet, so everything's a little different.
Good morning, everyone. This is Catherine Clement, and I'll be doing the reading today. We're starting on page 166 in the hard copy, Making Peace with Your Inner Child. And I'll preface this little section. It's not very long, a couple pages, but probably just because it has to do with the inner child, there will be plenty to talk about because it seems like this is all of our biggest hang-ups. It can be nearly instinctive to dwell on the cruel words others have passed along to you when further healing is required. Perhaps the painful words or actions of others can only affect your experience when you either match another person's vibration of insensitivity or refuse to be more loving toward the one who lashes out. Whether you are able to welcome life from a spiritually aligned perspective or get triggered by the actions of others, the most important thing is making peace with your inner child. When rooted in heart-centered consciousness, your innocence interprets the world as a reflection of your patience, kindness, and care, no matter how unconscious anyone seems to behave. One of the most direct ways to make peace with your inner child is to communicate with it on a regular basis. Whether it is repeating your personal love statement throughout the day, or finding a quiet space to silently allow your innocence to speak the unfiltered words it was never able to say in the past, or saying, I love yous to your heart, you are able to resolve every point of contention by becoming the acceptance and support that others haven't provided you. Another way of making peace with your inner child is by no longer defining your sense of worth or measuring your spiritual progress by the actions of others. While we are one in our essence, we are unique as individuals. By supporting the aspects of yourself that have never been heard, respected, accepted, or adored, you invite the highest intelligence within you to emerge. As your inner child is honored and respected as the form through which the universe is revealed, you are guided through every twist and turn with harmony, peace, ease, and joy. When not engaging your innocence with the attentiveness that a loving parent offers a child, or the respect of honoring that child as the wisdom of the universe, you unknowingly remain at odds with your heart, which amplifies the noise in your mind. Since your mind tends to be as noisy as your heart is closed, making peace with your innocence remains paramount to the evolution of your being. To make peace with your inner child once and for all, please repeat the following healing mantra. Dearest inner child, I'm so sorry if you felt ignored, abandoned, ridiculed, or denied in any way. I'm sorry that anyone has ever hurt you. I'm sorry if I have put you in a position to be around those who threatened your safety, unaware of your experience while I attempted to be fed by those I now realize were never designed or destined to fulfill me. I apologize if your pleas for my attention were overlooked, ignored, or misinterpreted as symptoms that I must fight, clear, dismantle, or transcend throughout my life. I see that whether disguised as my personal assistant, my imaginary guardian, or the insistent life coach who lives in my head, You are only attempting to capture my attention just so you, my beloved heart, could spend some more time with me. I'm so sorry you've had to work this hard. I accept that the pain of my life is not based on the circumstances I face or determined by what I think I lose or rectified by what I gain, but on how out of alignment I am in loving you the way you deserve to be loved. I apologize for how often I rush through life without keeping in mind the rate of speed that makes you feel safe. As of this moment, I vow to love, honor, and adore you as never before, and to regularly speak the words that you have always wanted to hear. Even if they are words you've already heard, I will speak them more often with renewed passion and enthusiasm. And the words that were so painful for you to hear from whoever shaped your reality from the past will no longer be words I say to you or anyone else. From now on, I realize that what I speak to another is a love letter sent to you, my sweet inner child. Give me just 1 second. I want to let you know that even though it looks like I'm talking to others in the world, I am not denying you in any way. When I am acknowledging you, all things are healed. When I am cherishing others, it is you I am honoring. I acknowledge you, my inner child, as the vulnerability of my heart and the center of my universe. I welcome my highest destiny as a way of honoring and celebrating you, the most important and crucial element in my journey. From this moment forward, I will carry you with me wherever we go, together as one, for the well-being and liberation of all. My dearest inner child, I want you to be a more active part of my life. I need you to help me complete my journey. You have an important role to play. If you open up and accept this moment as a new beginning in our relationship, I will love you as you were always meant to be loved. As I affirm your important role throughout my evolution, you will no longer have to work so hard to fight for my loving attention, acceptance, and approval. As of this moment, I surrender to love by letting you lead the way. I love you. Whether these words inspire a new beginning within you or continue to crack apart the density that can no longer divide you from your heart, it is your willingness to be in tune with your true innocent nature that sets the stage for life's profound miracles to be revealed. So I'll stop here and we can talk, and then if we run out of things to talk, I can read some more.
Thank you, Catherine. As always, you do an awesome job of, I think, bringing the heart, the emotion, and a lot of what he's trying to say, every time you read. And it's touching. Appreciate that. Any thoughts from anybody that jump out, come to your mind as we just read through this?
Yeah, I think well, maybe not the first thing that jumped into my mind, but as we were reading through that, what did he call that? Just like a mantra, or yeah, a mantra. Is it reminded me of other things that we've been taught over the years about the outside is a reflection of the inside. And so that everything that we see out in the world, everyone, every whatever, is a reflection of what's going on inside of ourselves. And so when we treat others with anger or frustration, or we're aggravated by them, or we're aggravated by the things that happen in life and that sort of thing, it's a reflection of what's going on inside of ourselves. And when we can send love out as if we are sending it in, is that it's a great reminder. If we're just like, as if the whole world and everything in it is just a mirror that we're looking into our soul with. And if we can just send love to all of those things reflecting back to us, then we can have more peace in our lives. We can have more love in our lives. We can have more of what we say that we want, calmness and happiness and all of those things. And but it's hard. It's hard when you're in the moment and you've just gotten up. And this is me this morning. I've just gotten up and I've barely moved. And as soon as I'm awake, the dogs start whining. And they're downstairs and they're excited. They want to go out. They want their breakfast, all of that. But I just need a few minutes of peace in the morning that just to wake up and meet the day. And here they are, start whining, and so that just like niggles at the back of my brain, and then I'm getting up and then I'm going and I'm making my coffee and they're getting louder and louder, and then the kids come in, they're like, Sama, 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 and I'm just like, so that whole time I'm getting like more and more like in the morning versus just meeting the day with love. And that is so difficult in the moment, right? Because we have all these things coming at us. And yet I know if I just allow the whatever and quit resisting it or reacting to it, or, obviously, some people can wake up and have all that going on and it's like no big deal, right? But then there's me and I'm like, okay. And just that realization that in that moment someone else can have peace and calm and I can have this agitation is a huge light bulb going, this is what's going on inside of yourself. And this is where I need to send the most love. I send my love to the whining dogs and send my love to the kids going, Samo, 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 and send my love just to the morning that is cloudy instead of sunshiny, and realize that I'm not sending my love to those things that annoy me. I'm sending my love to myself because I'm the one who needs it in that moment. And that is just a weird thing to kind of try and wrap your head around, right? Because we're sitting here going, these things are agitating me, but in reality, I'm the one who is already agitated, and these things are showing me that I'm agitated. They're showing me that I'm out of alignment in the moment, and that I'm the only one that can bring myself into alignment, bring myself into happiness and peace and calm and all of that. And we need that reminder, right? We all need that reminder. And it's just such a mind screw that, is telling us that, we think it's everything outside of ourselves. In reality, it's everything that's inside of ourselves. So I just wanted to, that was the first thing that kind of, that mantra was really speaking to me in this morning. You're muted, Dan.
It looked like Angel was trying to do something to say something, but if you want, I'll let you go. Oh, okay. I'll agree with you on, a lot of what you were saying, because I'm kind of the opposite. I'm a morning person. I get up and I can get up and go, and I can deal with things better in the morning. My energy is different. I get up, I go, I'm awake and I can go, and whatever starts coming at me, I can handle because my energy and my stuff, and I'm more ready to deal with it. I'm the opposite. In the evenings, when it's starting the day, I kind of really go with the day. As I get up at 5:45 usually every day, Monday through Sunday. Sunday through Sunday. The whole week. So for me to get up and go is part of how I am. I just kind of, and I have no problems. In the evenings when I'm wanting to wind down and get, and give that time that I need for me to, so to speak, recharge and that's when things start to get to me. And I've talked about my one friend who I've been helping out with through his legal issues. And he's been really stressed a lot with what's been going on with his mom and his family at home because of her dementia and stuff and things like that. And there are times where I think after being there for a while, it just gets to be where it just gets to be overwhelming, and then he can't focus on a lot of the things that he needs to do for his business and stuff, and trying to get that all worked out before he has to serve out stuff as the consequences of the choices he made over a year ago. In that sense, so I've opened up my spare room to him so that he can come and have a place where he can kind of get away. And there's not, I'll try not to get in his way and stuff and bother him. But at the same point, then he gets in my way because, how do I say this nicely? He's like a 6-month-old puppy dog. He constantly wants and needs attention. And he kind of just, but he's a grown man. I mean, he's 14 and 40. I'll be 59. So he's 44, 45. So he's a grown man, and he should not need, that much attention, And so when he's here, it's like, oh, let's, watch, this show or that show, or let's go and eat, or because he doesn't have a car, so I'm transportation unless I'm busy and trying to do other things I need to do. And I kind of push him to like, you're the one with money. You're the one telling me, you have all, get an Uber, go. Take things upon yourself to go do something, don't depend on when, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever, back when I had to put my car in the garage for 9 months because I couldn't afford to get it fixed. I rode the bus for 9 months to and from work. I would get up and usually 3 hours ahead of time before we had Uber, and I wasn't going to take taxis because they overcharge, and I just didn't have that money. So I did what I had to do to get me and take care. So in that sense, in the evening when I'm like, I just want to come home, relax, watch TV or read a book or chill, or, just be in my downtime. So I'm recharging to get ready for my next day because I get up so early. And he's a night person and I'm a day person. So in that sense, it's really, and he does not understand that. And then other things happen and we tend to argue. Get into, but it's draining. And in those moments, I'm like, Samantha, I'm realizing that this is some of what I dealt with as a kid, all the, having to live and adjust my life based on how my real mom and stepdad were acting, and if they were acting up or doing whatever, there might be 1 minute when me and my sister are playing or whatever, and then they'd fly off the handles. And so we'd have to, either run downstairs, get to the phone, call my grandparents and see if they can come get us, or my mom would come out of the room and throw things and, or whatever interrupted. And I feel that in those moments, I'm trying to go back and I know what I'm doing. I'm trying to get that control back so that way I'm the one in control and it's going at what I dictate and what I want. But then it just causes me to get so, and as we were starting this, where it says making peace with your inner child, and knowing that, I figured there was going to be a mantra that he was going to get into. It took me back to where I'm not sure what chapter it is. But it's back in the early stages, and he talks about creating your own personal love statement. So I think this creating your own personal love statement, along with making peace with your inner child, both these mantras, I think, kind of talk and speak and go into hand in hand, that love and saying that love and giving yourself that love. So then that way you can radiate that back out to people and give it back to them, so then you can get back what you need. Because I've always heard, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. And I think we've all heard it. I think we all want to live that, but it's so hard to do that when you're in the throes of those moments and you forget to give yourself that love and go back to those love statements and then at the same time to help create that peace for that inner child, so that way you can move forward in love and put that out, so that way hopefully you can get that back and you can stop going like this, but more on a, or little elevations, smaller valleys, and you're more on that even plane. So that's what I just wanted to bring out.
I really like how he encourages us to interact with our inner child daily. A lot of spiritual healers or gurus, whatever you want to call them, they'll address the inner child, but it's almost like they address the inner child as, oh, this is just, some hurt, destroyed little thing that, you just need to pick the child up and put it in your lap and comfort and love the child and then stick it back in the closet, basically. It's almost like a weekend workshop, to heal your inner child. You can do it in a weekend workshop, and it's just not that way. Like these words that are said to us or actions that are done against us or whatever, those stay with us. And just, doing a one-time inner child weekend workshop is not going to get it. Like, I really like the way that Matt encourages us to really love and nourish that child every day. And also, the inner child is, they really just, I mean, you can remember being a small child where everything was almost instantly forgiven. We didn't really carry grudges as children. That's something we tend to do as adults, right? Um, and we tend to lose the play in our life. You know, really staying in connection with your inner child on a daily basis can help lighten things up for you and give you a more playful approach or a more imaginative approach or a more, um, it can give you hope. Sometimes the world gets really crazy and you can border on losing hope if you pay too much attention to it. But embracing your inner child, children are full of hope and possibilities and magic and just the beauty and the fun of everything. And it's really an important tool that can help us get through some of these struggles that we go through. And I absolutely agree with both you and Dan, Samantha, that it is our resistance. And I see the same thing as you do, Samantha. I see people in extremely hard times that are not in resistance. And I see people in hard times in resistance. And it's just such a different, there's so much unnecessary suffering that comes from the resistance most of the time. And not to say that you can't, that you always have to be passive or whatnot. You can have an opinion. You can get feisty and stuff, but it's often it's so strange, and I catch myself doing it all the time. Like, it almost annoys me because I catch myself doing it so much, and I have to just send more love to that part of me. But it's like, whatever the thing is that I'm accusing somebody else of, that's me, like, if I'm accusing somebody else of being too controlling, that's because I want control, right? So who's being controlling? Right? It's just so ridiculous. And it's not just in the control, area. It's just all kinds of different things. I notice that same thing. I'll be like mad at somebody because they're whatever. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I go, you're the same thing. Like, just get over it and get on with it. And but embracing this inner child, I'm telling you, they are such sweet and innocent beings. And I think we forget that part of ourselves that gets excited about life, because sometimes we're excited and sometimes not so much, So I think it's really helpful as a daily practice. Um, even, I mean, you could play it out as far as you want, but you can have all kinds of conversations. You can, it is good to bring them up into your lap and cuddle them and talk about things maybe that have happened to them or been said to them that are hurtful and try to explain it to them. And I know it sounds like super stupid and silly because you're really just like talking to yourself, but it really helps to talk to yourself. It really, really helps to talk to yourself, especially if you're a person kind of like me that doesn't want to really like open up about everything to people. Like you might get part of what's going on with me, but you're never getting the whole story, I'll assure you, because I hold so much back because I don't want to overburden people and I don't want people worrying about me and things like that. So if you're somebody like that tends to hold things back, maybe your 5-year-old inner child is appropriate for some conversations, but then, we experienced traumas, many of us, throughout our whole lives. So it's not just revisiting the 5-year-old inner child, it might be visiting the 12-year-old or the 16-year-old or the 32-year-old or whatever, and having conversations with them and talking it through as a friend, just with your inner being, with your higher self, and re-looking at those situations and almost like your own counselor, because I don't want to go to a counselor because I've been to counselors and they were not helpful and they just wanted to, they almost always want to put you on drugs or something. And that's the last thing I need is something else messing with my mind. So um, I think being your own counselor can be extremely liberating and helpful if you can get past the silliness of doing it and get past the judgment of, oh, this is like stupid and really not going to work kind of thing.
I'm, I love a lot of what you just shared, Catherine, and it brings a point to my mind. It's like um, I've shared a lot of my, what's gone on in my life and stuff in here, and part of it is because I feel safe in this group and in this people, even though we're broadcasting live and stuff. But I feel safe in all of you and have shared. Whereas I don't share, I'm a little like you. I share with those I want to share because I trust and I feel safe and I feel okay sharing. Sharing with everyday people, no. I might say a little something just to give them a little glimpse, enough to where, okay, this is a little bit about what I'm about, but there's way more, but you don't need to know more because you're not in that realm. And I don't want that judgment. I don't want that looking, in that sense, and that's how I'm perceiving it. But I know as I've gotten older, I tend to sit down and when I when something is happening, then I later go back and revisit it and kind of go back through things. I tend to look at it, and it goes back to a little bit out of like the book when we did learning to what to say to yourself when you talk to yourself. Going back, and I think part of the problem is a lot of times when we're in those moments, we forget to stop and take that extra moment to talk to ourselves, to say the words that we need to say actually in those moments rather than in retrospect and later on, then go back and try and deal with it afterwards. Because when you're in that moment, that's when you really need those words, or that's when you really need that moment. And that's when you really need that love and that time to care for that inner child, so to speak, and help them get back to, like you were talking about, that wonder and that desire and that wanting to experience and to grow and to experience everything on the highest level. But because you're in that moment and because you're not talking to yourself in the right way, you retreat. And so then every time it comes up, you kind of stay in that mode because, for lack of a better way, you're comfortable. You've grown comfortable and accustomed, and you know how to operate in that mode rather than going back to addressing it at your most basic childlike level to be able to push back. So then that way you can be that open heart, that loving heart, that, heart that sees the best in everything, and that innocence. And I think, hate to say it, as we're older, we've lost the connection back to the innocence. And I think in a lot of ways we're kind of lost as to how to get back to that innocence. And maybe some of what these mantras and what he talks about in this book might be ways to help us get started on that path to reconnecting. And that's kind of how I look at it. And I know now I fight a little bit more for those times when I really want to just, because I like being with people. I enjoy being around people. I love being out and about. I feel I'm what a lot of people call, I'm an introverted extrovert. I'm love being around people and doing things and being in the middle of it all and stuff. But when I want to be home or alone or recharging, or I want to be kind of left alone. Let me go, let me recharge, let me do what I need to do, and I'll come back out and play, so to speak, again. So in that sense, I'm learning to fight more for that, because normally before I would, stay till the last minute or do this or be involved up till the last minute, because I didn't want to miss anything. But at the same point, I didn't realize how much I needed to go and spend time doing my own thing, even if I'm not even thinking or talking to myself or focusing on anything. But not when I had that time with me, just doing whatever I want to do, it's good. And I'm getting more familiar with myself in a lot of ways.
I was waiting for you, Angel, to see if there was something you wanted to say.
No, I've been kind of in and out of the conversation. Like there was a couple tidbits, but then the kids would start saying something and I'd lose it. And I'm trying, but every time I need to, it just doesn't work. Or I want to, and the kids are talking, and then I lose my train of thought, and then I miss half the conversation. Like, dang it!
Oh, the joys of having young children in the house. It's kids are great. They are, but they can be tiring, man. I don't know. It was all I could do I'm glad I had my kids when I was really young and had a lot of energy. That's all I know. If I'd have been one of those that decided to wait until were in their late 30s or something to have kids, I never would have made it through, I don't think. But
Right? I couldn't imagine starting to have a child now. Like, oh my gosh. And I'm only 29. Like, I couldn't imagine having a baby now. Like, Jesus, I'm already so tired.
Exactly. I think of course, the other gift of embracing your inner child on a regular basis, if not daily, at least regularly, is that it reminds you to be more gentle with others, because we tend to get this concept of I know I have. I mean, I live by it basically, which is put your big girl panties on and buck it up. Like you're an adult now, soldier on. it doesn't matter, right? Um, and that's a really harsh way to live with yourself and to live with others, because typically, if you expect that behavior, well, I don't really expect others to do what I do because I know I'm nuts. But, on certain levels, you do kind of you have expectations of, especially adults, rarely children necessarily, but especially adults, you have these expectations of how you think they should act or react. Um, and it's usually along the same line of what you're requiring of yourself. If you're somebody that really soldiers on, you expect other people to do that. Um, but even though we're grown adults, like that little 5-year-old is still in there and can just be hurt so easily. And so I think really staying in touch with that little one helps us be kinder and reminds us to be kinder to other people, because we may be speaking to them more harshly, not not trying to be harsh, but just more harshly than what is necessary. And it's so easy to hurt someone's feelings, and they rarely tell you when you do. And then a little grudge starts nigging at you, and then that can sometimes just go on forever and ever. And so I think acknowledging when you've been hurt by somebody is so important, instead of just telling yourself, oh, you're an adult now, buck it up, sweetie.
I think that's something that we pick up on and kind of ingrain in ourselves as we get older. And it's something we hear because, growing up as I got older, sometimes I heard it's like, and I've said it, I've even said it. You're an adult now, deal with it. It's, and in some cases I've trivialized things, and I always say, in my mind, I'm thinking it's not that big of a deal because of what I've gone through, and I've learned to deal and just kind of push through and do on. But at the same point, we have to remember we don't know what everybody else has gone through because not everybody tells us. And sometimes what certain things seem very minimal and trivial to me, and I'm just like looking at you and like going, really? You're that's what you're hung up about? Grow up, But other times when I'm going through what I'm going through and I want somebody to have that sense of compassion and feeling and heart for me, and I want them. So we really do. I think we do learn and we pick it up, and I think we also get this idea that we're not really being an adult if we don't buck it up, and if we don't soldier on, and if we don't prove to everybody that we're just as big and strong and capable, and um and I think in some ways that's um been a detriment to a lot of people's mental states too, because sometimes we do look at people and expect them to just carry on. Whereas if we have a little compassion and allow them that space to, be in that moment or whatever, and I believe ultimately you get to that point where it's okay, I can move on and go forward now. Let me move on and go forward. And sometimes it's not at the most in our own personal heads at the most opportune time, because we're thinking, well, I'll just soldier through, I'll get through this and I'll deal with it later, or it's not that big of a deal. And sometimes it really is, and sometimes you got to be your own advocate for yourself too. And I think in what he's saying here is that it's okay to make that space for your inner child and to love yourself and to, you know, um, go there. And I think that's something that even I do a lot because I don't a lot of times like revisiting, but I think in some ways I need to revisit and go through and reclaim, I guess, maybe some of that childhood and give back some of that love that I feel I need, that I so desperately want from everybody out there in some ways, I guess.
Yeah, I think that we do we do tend to not want to revisit. We're just like, okay, we lived through it once. We don't want to go through it again. And that's kind of my issue with counselors is they kind of want to sit there and talk about the same shit over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Like that's going to make any difference. And it really doesn't. I mean, I don't know what their theory is on that, but I don't find that it works for me. I'm sure it works for somebody, but just rehashing the same thing over and over and taking me back into bad memories is not necessarily the way that I tend to heal from things. But you can do it with your inner child or your teenage child or your young adult child or whoever. Um, in a way that maybe that's the other thing, you kind of are in control of the conversation. So you can make it go however you want, right? So that's helpful if you're kind of a control freak. Like I think all of us are to some extent. I think we're all a little want to be in control of things. It's really scary when you aren't in control of things, right? Can we just address that a little bit? It's really scary when suddenly everything is just like you think you've got a grip on life and you're headed in a direction or whatnot, and then wham, you just kind of get broadsided and and things get out of your control, and it's scary. It's really scary to that little child, I guess, because um I don't know, when I get fearful, I just feel like that is usually coming from my inner child. Um, I could be totally wrong about that, but that's just kind of that place that it hits me in my heart where I just get so fearful that everything is out of control and what ifs and what ifs and what ifs and and then you got to shut all that out because that just drives you crazy. And I think maybe just sitting with that inner child and letting them know it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay because we know it's going to be okay. In the end, everything is going to be okay. So if everything's not okay, we're just not at the end yet because once you get there, everything's good. So when we're feeling afraid, I think that is an excellent time to check in with that inner child and just reassure them and tell, you don't lie to them because they know kids are very intuitive. They you can't lie to your inner child, but you can definitely comfort them and and they can remind you too that everything is going to be okay. Sometimes it's the little child that is actually comforting the adult. Um, because they have, like I said before, they have hope. They believe in miracles. They believe in, that they're not worried about how is the electric bill getting paid? Where's the food coming from? How many hours do I have to work this week? Or, whatever. Their mind isn't all tied up with all that stuff. So it's really a huge resource for us when our mind is tied up with all that stuff to go sit and have a talk with that little child and get back into that everything is provided for me mentality, because it is. I mean, even though we do work for things and stuff, it just, to me, I don't know, I look at my life and I go, wow, like, how did I even get here? And, you know, it's not like I have a lot, but how did I even get what I have? And like, I'm always in amazement at how well I have been cared for by God my entire life. Um, so I know that it's all going to be okay. But I lose sight of that as an adult. And sometimes going and having a talk with that little Kathy, I call her Kathy instead of Catherine because Catherine's the big girl. So when I go have that talk with little Kathy, she reminds me sometimes that it is going to be okay and that God loves me. Because sometimes as an adult, even as much as I know that God loves me, I kind of get in arguments with God. I didn't really argue with God as a child so much.
Interesting you bring some of that up because I agree with you, because everybody in here really knows, how I believe, and I believe that God is out there, God is real. I have a personal relationship and all that. And yeah, I don't remember arguing with God as a kid, and I took it not for granted, but more, I guess, face value. And, that I was just, for the most part, taken care of. I was still alive, I know where a lot of the food and a lot of things I received and had given to me wasn't necessarily through my parents, but from my grandparents. They provided a lot of those means. But I go back to that child and being that control freak to a degree. I'm not like as bad as some people, but I do recognize it in me, and I know exactly where it comes from. It comes from those constant days of not knowing, from when I would get up and go to bed, how things were going to flow with my parents, except for when I was at school. Because when I was at school, actually, that was a safe haven in a lot of ways. And I've a lot of times flourished because I was around teachers that seemed to care, and things like that. And one of my teachers was my grandmother's friend. So that teacher kind of also kept an eye out for me, unbeknownst to me, for a lot of years. But in that, but there were times where I'd come home and things would have been fine in the morning. I'd get me and my sister off. We'd go to school, come back home, and, things would break. And for me, in that moment, where one moment could be sitting and watching TV or doing whatever, doing homework, and then all chaos and all craziness would break loose. And we'd be going crazy and be in fear of what was going to happen and go on. So I know for me, where a lot of that comes from. And I don't like that one bit. I like knowing how things are going to kind of proceed and how and I like having that. So I know where, a lot of my control issues come from, and why I don't mind interruptions. When it's interruptions, I know that are just part of normal everyday life. But when it's from outside forces like people and stuff, and I have my, like, okay, today I'm going to do this, I got this planned out, aside from, car accidents or this or that happening, or, things where I know I have no control on that, but the people out there don't have control over it either. It's just part of life. But when people start saying, oh, can you do this, or can you do that, or can you help me with this? And I'm like, in my head, I've already got this planned out. And now you want to throw wrenches into that, and you expect me to be all lovey-dovey and nice and just accept it and oh, I love you, and so yeah, let's go do this. No, you're not. You're making me go out of my way to do what you need, when yet I need to get these things done. And maybe that's part of, learning to love certain aspects. And, because of going back to when I was younger, I didn't feel that in those moments. And that's my natural response, I guess, the best way to say it. I just tend to respond that way. And then in retrospect, when I go back and look at it, and I almost always do, I go back and kind of replay. I'm like, was that really that big of a deal? No, it really wasn't that. It wasn't the big deal that I made it. Could I have handled it differently? Yeah, probably. And could I have not said what I said? Yeah, probably. And then, but the other person then gets kind of all bent out and twisted and pennies and wad and all that thing too. So both sides are kind of, and so then I'm creating my own issue in the moment, when all I had to do is kind of go with that inner child and say, okay, this is just, what happens, and, focus on the other side of it, and just keep, that hope, and that, knowing that it will be better idea in my heart, and that love, and that there, instead of focusing on the irritating thing, I guess is how I want to say it. And even recently, going back to like what you were saying, Catherine, when I started going through some of what I was going through with my car, and how frustrating, how that has really, in my mind, put me at very unease, and I'm, dealing with pressures that I don't like. And, one of my pastors even said, well, we have counselors that we can, have you go in, and we'll even pay for like the first session or something like that. And they said, and the one, the one I'm decent friends with, and I've talked to him a lot about a lot of things. He goes, do you think that would help? And I go, I was honest. I said, no, I don't really do, because I know how that works. I've been through it before. I understand that they're just going to go over and over and over the same thing and try and I'm like, it doesn't help get me to where I need to get. And I think I can navigate this one on my own, but that's because I have a core group, friends that I go and talk to, like here, and a couple of good friends that I do go to when I have those moments and I need just to share and talk and walk through things. And that works better for me than going and talk to somebody I don't know, who's writing notes and saying, well, what do you, and how does that, and it doesn't get me anywhere, I've learned. And so that's the other thing that just came up with that.
Welcome back, Samantha. I know you had to take a call. I hope that went well. I think that Matt is, if you were to meet him in person, I've met him a couple of times. He kind of, well, I don't want to say he reminds me of Buddha, but because I don't really know Buddha, but but it seems like Buddha was always just kind of happy and enjoying of things. The picture that I have of Buddha, I don't know, like I have a jade Buddha over there, and he's always happy and fat, and not to say that Matt is, but Matt's just got that same kind of a happiness about him, a joy about him. And I know that comes from having that relationship with his inner child. Yeah, his aura is just that very loving, accepting, childlike, and innocence. Because if you remember as children, we didn't hold grudges. We didn't well, some children can be quite controlling, but the majority of children they're just doing what they enjoy. They're just doing what they like to do. They don't care what you're doing. They don't care what that person over there is doing. They don't care about anything happening in the next hour or the next day. Like, they're just there in the moment. They're the most perfect examples of being in the moment, and just being what adults would term selfish, because, or at least the adults in my life would term those things selfish, if I was just wanting to be all about me. But I love that about kids, because it reminds us that sometimes we're not enough about us. Sometimes we're too much about us, right? But it helps me. It reminds me that it's okay for me to play for 5 minutes in my day if I want to, or 10 minutes or an hour or whatever. It's okay. And it's okay to cry if something is hurting me. As an adult, I don't cry really. I mean, sometimes I do, or sometimes I feel like it, but I hold it back. But as a child, if you hurt your finger, you cry, and it's okay. And I don't know at what point in life we get taught that that's not okay. But I think we all do. And really going back and embracing our childlike innocence about the world. I know, Samantha, you were gone a lot, but we talked about how, kids are just so full of hope, and they don't have worries like most kids. Once in a while, you get a kid that is a little worry wart and a little control freak. but but most of the time, kids are pretty. Um, they're not worrying about the bills or where the food's coming. They just know that it's going to show up, and so spending more time with our inner child and doing that more, getting our mind out of the equation more and our heart back into it more, I think is extremely helpful. And we'd like to think that we're the ones going in there to counsel the child, but often it's the child that counsels us, because they're so clear. Um, when I met Jesus, he had a very childlike countenance about him. I don't know how to describe it, but the sweetness of him was like a child. And if we can just carry a little bit more of that through our days and express that to ourselves and others, we'll get along a lot better. I love you guys. Have a good week.
Yeah, we're at about 10 after the hour, and I think we got started right around 10 after the hour. So, any last thoughts from anybody or anything? Angel, did any of your thoughts come trickling back in that you might have had, or did they float off into oblivion until
They all
you?
got floated off into oblivion.
Okay, I just thought I.
tried.
Okay, well, I just thought I'd just make sure and stuff.
I appreciate it.
But we're in the book, Whatever Rises, Love That, A Love Revolution by Matt. A Love Revolution That Begins With You by Matt Kahn. As you can see, we just finished chapter 10. We'll be starting chapter 11 next week. As you can see, this group, we always have thoughts and ideas about pretty much everything that we talk about. But that's part of what this group is about, going through the books and sharing what we feel and what we gain and what we get out of it to hopefully help ourselves grow and be better and get to the best version of ourselves and to love ourselves more and to give that hug to ourselves that we need just as much as we need from others, and to radiate that out to others. We've been doing this for quite a number of years, 8 or 9 years now, I think. We would love to have you join us. You can find us at Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective on Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube at that same Mindset Mastery Collective. We have all our videos of everything we've done there. We also have our website, mindsetmasterycollective.com. You can go there and find us. In any of those ways, you can probably find ways how to get in touch with us, join the groups. Facebook's pretty straightforward and easy, but please give thumbs up, share, and come join us. If you want to be on the panel, let one of us know, and we can get you in and to be a part of that. So with that, that's it for the Saturday Morning Mastermind.